Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the World Explorer podcast. This is the podcast where me, Casey, and my friend Isaac come together and take a prompt and build an entire world around it. Isaac is, as always, our prompt master and will provide us with, the prompt.
Okay, so I have actually been wanting to do something along this theme for a while, but I've actually got a good idea for a world setting for it now. So, steampunk.
Steampunk? Okay.
Yeah, you're familiar with steampunk. You were there for the robotics.
Yeah, I built a steampunk robot.
Anyway, yeah, so steampunk, for those who don't know, because I found out that apparently there's a lot of people who don't know what steampunk is.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess you could call it the age of steam, where everything is brass pipes, everything is steam-powered, lots of gears, flying machines, people in top hats and trench coats.
Or vests.
With handlebar mustaches. Yeah, and vests.
Girls are wearing corsets, but they look really good in them.
I'm trying to build sort of like a visual image and feel.
It's always raining.
For you guys. Yeah, it's always raining. It must be all the steam.
Blimps. Blimps are very popular.
Yep, very often there's a lot of blimps, lots of flying machines and shit.
Clocks, towers, are big.
Yeah, clocks are very popular as well. Anyway, so the idea was like a steampunk-esque world, but it's but the entire world takes place on an airship type thing, but the airship is like an entire city in the sky.
Okay.
But it's constructed. It's constructed full of propellers and turbines, keeping it in the air. And just the image that I have in my head is a lot of things connected by rope bridges. So you have individual little islands floating around each other. All these man-made structures. But this is seemingly the entire world.
So this is a giant. So is this world then just sky, or is this a world where the land has become corrupted by pollution or something, and so people have had to go up?
I think I like the idea of land corrupted by pollution because it gives a way for this place to exist, which is because all this material has to come from somewhere.
Also, the steampunk theme is heavily pollution. It's probably one of the most polluted. The cities aren't healthy to live in usually in steampunk. Everyone's coughing.
So I guess you could say they just polluted the earth so much, and it's so corrupted. It's not a healthy, safe place to live anymore. So they've taken to the skies and now they live in the skies.
And it's also kind of they're ignoring their consequences, pretending it's not happening. They're continuing their heavily polluted lifestyle and just dumping it on the earth below.
I'd say maybe they look at the earth below and they're like, yeah, that's not a big deal. That's not a problem because we're up here. It doesn't affect us.
Yeah. It does. It will. But, for now it doesn't.
Maybe eventually.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, that was sort of my idea for the world. It's this giant city, probably, I imagine it mostly made of brass because steampunk, rope bridges and wood.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I understand I'm personally seeing the vibe, but I am very familiar with the steampunk. I've dressed up full steampunk before. We've built a steampunk robot together, so I'm very familiar with the theme, probably more so than I've read a lot of steampunk themed stories. They're fun. But I could see why other people might struggle to get a vision of the world. Because steampunk, it's definitely just look it up. Spend 5 seconds type steampunk and spend 5 seconds scrolling through it, and you'll get the idea instantly. It's a very simple.
Yeah, I'm sure most people I think have at least heard of steampunk, seen steampunk somewhere. They just don't really associate the term steampunk with it. Even Phineas and Ferb had a steampunk episode.
Yeah.
So the sky, in the steampunk world, and they polluted the earth.
Yes, that's where we're at right now. And they're continuing to pollute the earth without care of. They think they're above it, quite literally.
So do we want to have this world where where there's actually still some people living on the Earth that is polluted, and uh, maybe they were left behind by this civilization that took to the skies?
Like the slums.
Yeah, kind of like the slums. Except I think it's sort of a situation where like you're born on Earth, you're stuck on Earth. You're
Yeah.
born in the sky, you're stuck in the sky.
Yeah, there's not a
No
pathway
one
between.
travels between. Yeah, there's no travel between because the people on Earth have no way of getting to the sky, uh, and the people in the sky have
No
no
desire.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have no desire. No.
Could this
Or maybe something that they do is they actually dump their trash onto the Earth for the for the people on Earth to find and salvage, and they're trying to build maybe their own flying machine. I'm imagining a story where it's like you got this one uh, person who's going and assembling all these maybe remaining parts from this civilization that took to the sky, maybe some of the trash they've dropped, and trying to build a flying machine to get up there with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that does seem like something that might happen. I mean, another element, I'm not sure if we want to use this or not, so feel free to veto it, but would be the idea that they don't actually realize that there is a society in the sky. Like, they might think that the
Ooh,
society in the sky is equivalent to the clouds, and that it's just so heavily polluted and stuff that things are falling from the atmosphere that is trash from like generations ago, but they don't realize that's actually just a civilization up there that's dumping this stuff.
it's like a twisted version of Castle in the Sky.
I don't know what that is, but sure.
Oh, it's a Studio Ghibli movie.
I know it's Studio Ghibli. I've never watched any of their stuff though. I've wanted to, I
Oh,
just never
okay.
have.
Yeah, Castle in the Sky. It's a story that also covers pollution and being uh, green and it involves a floating castle in the sky that nobody uh, believes exists, as it's always covered by clouds. And
Yeah.
you try and get close to it, you are hit by a storm. It's a good movie.
Okay. I don't doubt that. I've heard good things about the studio. But yeah, so in this one, it's kind of just I guess maybe the bottoms kind of blend in with the clouds a bit. That the city, it might have been like unintentional because I
I
think
imagine what happens is the city puts off steam,
true. You're
and
right.
so that creates clouds around it,
Yeah,
and
that's a good
so
point.
nobody sees it.
Yeah.
Maybe every once in a while it might peek out a little bit, or you might catch a little glimpse of it, but for the most part it's concealed
Yeah.
because they're just putting off so much steam.
And it could be at the point where the people up there probably think that all the people down there died off, and all the people down there probably heard like rumors of a city that went to the sky, but then they think it got destroyed, and that's why they're seeing remains slowly falling down from the atmosphere or something. So both sides think the other side has ceased to exist, and that they're all that's left.
Yeah, and I like that idea, and I think that would this would again go back to that earlier story I mentioned. You could have these remains slowly falling, and maybe you've got most of the people on Earth saying, "Yeah, those are just the remains. They're just taking a while to fall back down from the sky." But then you have that one character who's like, "No, I think it's still up there, and this is their trash," and everybody's like, "Baha, that's ridiculous. That's a stupid theory, you idiot. If they were still up there, we'd be able to see them."
Yeah. Now that though, if you think about it, is the cliche story of someone from like the lower lands coming down, going to the upper lands and like dreaming for it and going there. I think a fun story for this world would actually be if up in the steampunk realm, they're realizing that they're running out of supplies like pipes and stuff that they normally have, so they actually send like a group of people down to the earth, and then they're the ones that are met with a surprise that, oh my gosh, people are still living here, and they're living in our filth, and we're making their lives miserable
Why
and
not
even
both?
worse. Yeah, that's true.
Why not do both stories?
That could be
Like, why
fun.
not have the people go down, and then it's like they meet this other group of people who are living in all the pollution, and they're trying to find a way up into the sky. And now you've got people where it's like, oh look, my theory has been confirmed. There are still people living up in the sky, and then they're like, oh no, we were wrong. There are still people living on Earth,
Yeah.
which is making their lives worse, and also almost dropping stuff on their heads.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing that happens. I think
yeah, another thing that this is reminding me of. This isn't just reminding me of Castle in the Sky, but another movie that's coming to my mind is Astro Boy. Have you seen that?
I have heard that one I have heard of. I've never seen it though.
Yeah, I think it's a very underrated movie.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good movie, and I went back years later to watch it again, thinking, is this the sort of thing that I would like as an adult, or no? Then I watched it again and went, no, actually a pretty darn good movie. Surprisingly.
I mean, the vibes I'm getting from this, I'm getting really big Moral Engines vibes from this, which is a movie. It's a movie based off of a book series, because that is a very steampunk. It's cities combined in vehicles, and it's like a world ruined by pollution. So that's kind of what I'm getting from this.
I have not read or watched the Immortal Engines, but I want to.
I own the books. I haven't read them yet. I have seen the movie. I really enjoyed it. Except the Twinkie reference, which was very inaccurate, but they had a thing with minions that was funny.
What?
So they had a statue from like Universal of minions in the movie, and they're like, we think these are the deities they worshipped. And I'm just sitting here like, well, you're not wrong.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, no, there's some good references in the movie, but yeah, it was good. It has some concepts about it which I would rather save for other videos and talk about, but yep. So
okay,
that's the vibes I'm getting from it. So we're getting similar vibes. We're just relating them to different shows because we've seen different things.
Yeah. So I mean, we're just referencing stuff like these are not the normal things that we reference.
No, true. These
in
are
our podcast. We're referencing a bunch of new stuff.
I'm proud of us. We're branching out in the world, expanding our horizons.
Yeah. Alright, so yeah, Astro Boy. I recommend it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've got this world now where we to the moon, city at the top. We haven't actually done much in terms of world building, more story building on this simple premise.
Yeah.
So
my question is size. World size, I think, is a good thing to talk. How big is this world, and is it? Yeah. How big is this? Is it circular? Is it square? Is it?
I imagine this world would have to be pretty small, because otherwise, like this city would just travel so far so easily, and if this city alone is like doing so much pollution, like I feel like this world would have to be small.
I don't know why, but I'm almost feeling like a little box. I'm thinking of a box, and it's got ocean around it. This is the world where if you you go in the ocean long enough, you go off the edge and you die. World. And you've got like your mainland, and then you have the city above the mainland, and then the water's like polluted along the edge, and you can't really sail out anymore, and even if you did, you'd just end up dying, so there's no real point.
Okay, and I assume there's like a whole atmosphere in this world.
Yeah.
It doesn't just go on forever, because otherwise you gotta have a reason for the flying city not to just keep going.
Yeah, no, there's not. I think I think there's a pretty strong atmosphere, but I don't think it's as. I do think that it would be pretty easy for things to like get shot up into space, and that's why people's theory of things falling down slowly is accurate, because they think that things got like the spaceship probably went too high, got caught up in space, but now things are just coming down slowly.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the ground people are stupid.
They gotta come up with some solution, because they look up and there's no city.
Yeah.
Like, where's the city?
It's clouds.
I see no city.
It's a steampunk city. It's constantly raining. It's very cloudy. They don't see the sun very often, or ever, really.
I imagine something that Are you talking about the city? They don't see the sun from the city very often.
I think no. I think this. I think just in general. This feels like a world where there's constantly steam and water being cycled into the atmosphere. Like if it's a small world and the majority of the world is heating up water and sending it into the atmosphere, you're going to have very high participation, and that is something that over time is just going to get worse and cycle. And I think it's just rainforest level rains just all the time. And that's the world in general. So it's the steampunk sky city. As the steampunk sky city probably gets breaks and sees sun more than the Earth does.
Something I was thinking about was that if this city is putting off so much pollution that you can't see it, that's how much steam it's putting off. I was thinking that maybe their turbines and their propellers would actually be like funneling all of the steam below the city.
Yeah.
And that's where like all of their fans are blowing it, so that it's making an extra thick cloud below it. However, this would open up the sky above them.
Okay.
So they have good weather, like, all the time.
Yeah.
But they're pushing all the moisture and bad weather beneath them.
So below it's getting tons of rain and probably not nice rain either, and smoke and
Yeah.
With this,
and of course, this would make it so that you never see the city.
Yeah. Would this have an effect on the people living below, like, physically? Like, how did the people adapt to living in absurd pollution? Like, your water's contaminated by the stuff that's being dumped down. You're never really seeing the sky. It's always smoke and smog. The rain, it's, I guess, clean water's raining down, but it's
yeah. I mean, I
might
think
not
the
be.
rain would be clean for the most part, unless they have like some sort of toxic rain that they're
I mean, it's
putting in there. Like, unless
mostly
there's, like,
steam, and steam's
yeah, but it's
pretty.
mostly like steam. Like, I don't know. It's mostly just normal water. There's not
Yeah.
much actual like grease and gunk and all that kind of stuff falling from the sky. It's just water.
I know. The thing that I can't get over is the fact that every now and then it's just human poop is being rained over the city edge constantly.
Yes, like I didn't think about that. Like, their waste has to go somewhere.
So how are the people explaining that away? Like, the city doesn't exist, but human waste is constantly raining down.
Really big birds.
Do they really think it's just birds, and that's what they're going like a birds they never see?
Maybe they. It's just so uncommon for them to find poop falling from the sky. I don't know,
I don't think it would.
Either they would have to spread it out where it is not happening enough that you would see it a few times in your life at least, or they would dump it all out at once, in which case people see the giant blob poop fall.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, though. I'm seeing, like, the population of the sky people is probably higher than the population of the earth people. Therefore, they produce a lot more poop. And, we use the restroom regularly. And it has to go somewhere. Unless, honestly, I guess it is a sky island, and they might have a way to, like, recycle it for their farmlands and, like, turn it to fertilizer and stuff like that.
I don't think you can use human feces as fertilizer. You might be. I don't think you can.
I think no, you can actually. There is, you can buy yourself toilets that compost your poop, and then you can use it for fertilizer.
I did not need to know that.
Why not? It's a thing.
I do not plan on getting one of those.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's
waste
like all the people who are telling me go green, I'll tell them go get a toilet that and then recycles your poop.
You'd be surprised. They might just not know that it exists, but it does exist. It is a thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's for like especially those travel homes where they don't want to hook up to a sewage system. They'll use these.
Okay, anyway.
I don't know why this disgusts you so much. We are openly talking about poop being flung over onto poor people's heads, and you're like, no, I'd rather that option over them having toilets that compost their poop. Like, Isaac, my method is the least disgusting version. I don't know what you're...
Well, you see, the idea of me going and recycling my poop and just having it there with me is disgusting. However, the idea of someone getting pooped on is always funny.
So that, wow,
Like,
wow,
even though it's more gross, it's always funny.
wow.
Especially if it just falls from the sky. Okay, anyway, so we were talking about these people adapting to their new living
Yes,
situation. So, of course, I think that they could get clean water. That wouldn't be a problem.
true. Yeah, I think
Um,
rain. It's raining constantly, and the rain is clean.
yeah, and so there would be like a lot of vegetation, I would say, from that.
Yeah.
Uh, like, oddly enough, like, there's a lot of pollution, but at the same time, there's a lot of vegetation,
I mean, well,
somehow.
plants thrive on carbon dioxide being put into the atmosphere. It's humans who don't.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah,
so
so
that's
really,
why
there would
if
be
you go by a
a ton
highway,
of.
the plants are greener and like more vivid along a highway usually than they are like deep in the forest. It's because they have tons more to eat.
Yeah, so really, there's just a ton of vegetation in this world.
Yeah. It's just also, I mean, so I guess it's the atmosphere. It's the air. The air is very unclean. You're constantly coughing.
Yeah, like generally, whenever people look at polluted worlds and stuff, when they do that sort of world building, the worlds are always like, uh,
Deserts,
yeah, they're like deserts, and it's like
trash
everything's
piles.
trash, made of metal, and everything. But no, really, in a world like this, there would be a ton of vegetation. If you're getting this much water and this much carbon dioxide, like plants are going to grow 10 times faster.
Yeah. If anything, that's like part of the problem is like control it. Because you know how grass gets after a raining day. You have to like mow it instantly or else it's trying to eat you. So here,
Yeah, I've been
like
running
these,
into that problem constantly. It's been raining a ton.
yes, it's same here. Lots of rain. The grass is growing like mad. Weeds are like things are growing like mad. And it's hard to tame. And so, but I mean, I also feel like this is a world that has a lot of abandoned cities and structures that have just gone overgrown like mad. And maybe it's a popular trope and it's popular for a good reason because it's fun. Mutations caused by pollution and stuff, so your plants are now more deadly, which also causes issues for the earth dwellers.
Yeah, I'd say like that's yeah, it is a good trope. It's
It's
popular
fun.
because it's so much
It's
fun.
and it's also got
Uh,
so much diversity. Like you could do whatever the heck you want with it. Like it doesn't get old because it's always fresh.
yeah, when you say vague pollution, you don't know what kinds of chemicals and stuff you're throwing into the plants. You can basically say these plants now do whatever I want.
Yes, and you can say the same
But
for the people too, which is also always fun.
yeah, usually people will use like nuclear radiation for things like mutations, but that's because nuclear radiation actually causes mutations.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
this doesn't feel like a nuclear fallout world
no, this
in any
is
way.
more like humans poured too much trash into the river.
Yeah, this
That's
is
more what this is.
yeah. Yeah, this is definitely more we've got tons of mines and oil rigs and cities and factories and stuff. But and it probably did kill a lot of things. A lot of there was an era where a lot of the plants were dead. Food was getting difficult to grow because it was being choked out by the air pollution. So what these people are is like, okay, we're going up. So this great big city was made. I guess screenings happened. Certain people were allowed to come, and certain people were assumed to be killed. Like they were, some were selected to live, and some were selected to die. Pretty much, it's brutal. It's awful. If you want to write the story in that era, that could be an interesting era of this world to write. But they get sent up into the sky, say goodbye to the world, and at that point, communication stops. But at the same time, so have the factories and the mines and stuff. There's a lower population that's now just focused on trying to get food out of it, and then all of a sudden their rain is starting to increase, and things are being disposed of occasionally, but like the pollution levels are actually dropping, and now plant growth is increasing, but there's growing in a very polluted atmosphere, and so mutations are occurring, and the people are mutating slightly. Maybe they don't need as much food, or they can now digest certain things they weren't able to beforehand, or things like that to survive. And as time goes by, the people in the below world stop believing that the upper city still exists, and vice versa.
Just imagine these people from the city going down and finding all these people. They see the polluted areas, and then they're like, "Hey, would you like to stay for dinner?" And they're like, "Sure." So they come in and they stay for dinner with these people on the surface, and then they offer them these foods that they can't eat because they have not adapted.
I mean,
Like
yeah.
they've been living in clean air. Not only are they pushing all of the bad stuff away and out of their city, they're actually like farming and they're growing trees and
And
raising
whether you
livestock.
like it, they're using their own poop as fertilizer. Honestly, that could be an interesting story element. Is actually you have these two worlds and they're interacting for the first time in centuries, and then they realize that each other can't live in the opposite worlds. Like, coming down to the polluted area is not going to be good for the air dwellers, and the earth dwellers coming up to the non polluted world isn't good for them
Well, what would
either.
actually? Why would the non-city dwellers like? Why couldn't they enter the city?
I mean, well, it could just be something to do with the mutations. So you're so used to breathing polluted air that
So that
non
maybe if
polluted
you start
air
bringing
is
the
like polluted air to you.
yeah, like you're just it's just basically too pure, I guess. Like I don't know how you would describe it, but like
Well,
you
it's
get to a
kind of
point where you
like,
start needing.
yeah, it's kind of like people who live on high mountain ranges versus people who live in lower, in like our areas and stuff. So those who live up on higher mountains, they usually don't have any trouble breathing that fresh air and stuff like that. Meanwhile, those of us who go to visit that areas, we have to accumulate to it. We have to do it slowly. Sometimes we need extra oxygen to help us and stuff to adjust to the new atmosphere and air levels and stuff. So it's kind of like that. So I feel like the lower area people could adjust to the upper area easier than air people could adjust to the earth. That I do. I do believe that's a thing.
Okay, so I want to say, can the people in the city have flying bicycles?
Yeah,
Like they pedal and they have a little flying machine that just goes around. Because those are
as
always
long
fun.
as it's steam powered too.
It's got well, I'm not sure how much this one would really be seen. It's mostly on gliding. I suppose maybe you could have it where it's like it glides and stuff, and it's got a propeller you pedal, and maybe it's got a steam powered tank on it to help propel you forward a little bit extra distance.
You know, it could
Faster.
it could just
It's
be
just
like
stuff.
it's bicycle versus car. Literally, all it is if you're putting steam in it or not. It's like a convertible,
Kinda.
but between bicycle and car, or motorcycle, I guess would be
I
a
was
better
thinking
comparison.
motorcycle, like bicycle motorcycle.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah,
a bicycle
and I
if you're
think it'd be
feeling
kind of like a
active.
combination.
Yeah, if you're feeling
And
active,
of
it's a
course,
bicycle.
I think that they should have like ships that fly between the different islands,
Yeah, and then
and
you have
as like
yours.
just a form of public transportation.
Yeah.
Supply chains because again, we're looking at a major, like, massive city.
Yes, like this, it spans across the world. Mind you, it's a small world,
I would say the entire world,
but it spans like I guess
even
across
if
like
it's
the
a small
central
world.
area. Yeah, it's a small world. It's a small world after all.
Yeah, I'd say like I'd say it definitely doesn't cover even a quarter of the world is not what I would say it does.
Yeah, but it's probably constantly
Uh,
moving though too.
yeah, it's constantly moving around, uh,
Not too
but
far though,
it's
because it
big
could
enough
leave.
to house thousands and thousands of
Yeah, it's
people.
gotta house a good chunk, and they're also
Yeah,
kind of growing it.
yeah, they're expanding over time. So think about like say trees
Yeah.
is they get their size not from the dirt but from the air.
Yeah, okay.
Like that's where the actual physical like solid parts of trees come from. Like for example, think about it this way: if you have a potted plant,
Mhm.
why is it that the dirt never runs out in your potted plant? Like unless like a pet is knocking it over or something, the dirt does not lower over time. And when you see a tree outside, like there's no craters where the trees are. They
Yeah.
just trees don't really consume dirt. They consume like some of it, like very little, like some of the minerals and stuff in the soil. But for the most part, they're just getting most of their stuff, like their form. I don't know what you call it,
From sunlight.
from the air.
Yeah. Sunlight, air, all that stuff.
Yeah, sunlight and air. Like that's oddly enough like where all the solid stuff comes from. It's just gas and light.
Yep. They're cool like that.
Yeah, so they can absolutely like grow trees and stuff there up in the
Oh,
sky.
definitely. I think, yeah, I do see though the need of going down and getting more resource sources being a thing, and it could be that
Yeah,
they
things like
coming.
metal can't.
Yeah, they could. It
They
could.
can't.
Yeah, but it could also be like these trips of going down to the Earth. They don't meet people, so they think that they're extinct now. But and then at one of these trips, they just happen to actually meet them, and then the connection starts.
Yeah, I'd say like rather than mining and stuff for all of these different pieces of metal and stuff, instead of doing that, I'd say like these would be more like scavenger
Definitely.
expeditions, where like they go down to like maybe the ruins of a city, and they're like, if you find a pipe from just a plumbing system, grab it and bring it up with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll use it however we need there. We can smelt it down, etc.
Yep. Or even like they could be going down there and says, "Okay, guys, we need some fresh dirt. This is what we're doing. We're digging today. Let's try to find some nutrients rich that we haven't killed."
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, what else can we do with this world?
Well, we gotta talk
Uh,
animals, I
I,
think, a bit.
I don't see them really being much different from what we have now.
I
Well,
mean,
maybe something we could do something interesting with birds.
well,
Um,
actually, I was thinking about animals just in general. Like, would they really be a thing, or would that be something that went extinct because of the pollution? Would this
uh,
be an
I,
animalless?
I mean, of course, we've already discussed like animals would still exist in the sky, but as for on the surface of the Earth, I mean, humans still exist. So
Yeah, but
really,
humans
they're
are.
supposed to stay alive, but maybe they are often sick or they are mutated.
Yeah, humans are doing well, and we have our intelligence though to help us get through things that other animals don't have that for. It's I think it's an interesting idea to think about at least of like you have a highly polluted world. Are the animals going to survive? But at the same time, we know that plants need animals too. So like bugs at least would have to have survived for because plants need to be fertilized by them usually, or a lot of them do anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
So is this just a
Okay.
world with birds and bugs, but it doesn't have things like bears or dogs or I mean, cockroaches survive everything, so they'll be there. Mosquitoes are
Okay.
surprisingly
So
survivable, so they'll thrive.
yeah, cockroaches like they can survive anything. Wally made that very clear.
I mean, science has made that very clear. Those things are indestructible.
So going back to the living conditions of
Mhm.
these people on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah.
Um, so I imagine if there's a lot of rain and water, imagine like rivers and lakes are very common. Uh, it's probably like mudslides. I think that they would probably build their homes at higher
Oh,
elevation,
yeah.
uh, just because of all the water.
Yeah.
Maybe some of their homes have stilts.
Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't think about that, but flooding would be a major thing that they just constantly dealing with.
Yeah. So any sort of like underground, very often like you can people talk about like going underground to avoid polluted air and stuff, and
That's not really an
helping.
option here.
Yeah, because if you go underground, there's always a chance of like it caving in and flooding. Like you get a leak, your home is now flooded.
Yeah, no. They would
Like,
have.
depending on how deep you go underground. If you're on a hill, like a very tall hill, you can go underground.
Yeah.
You just can't go too deep. But yes, you can go underground if you're higher. But
And
if you're talking about like just on the surface level going or digging like a tunnel system, no. like I suppose maybe you could do that. You just have to have like people constantly maintaining it to make
Yeah.
sure that it doesn't collapse. So I could see a society definitely doing that. They just be very careful.
Yeah, definitely. Because I do think like small communities and stuff would. I just don't think they'll ever get to the size of the Sky City.
No, I
Ever.
mean you could. I could definitely see it going either way. If you want smaller communities, I don't think they'd have that big tunnel system. If you want to say like there's a mirrored population where it's like there is a massive city in the sky, but there's also a massive city on the surface that's less noticeable, I think that could work too.
True.
Where maybe you've got thousands of people who primarily live underground, and you've got these tunnel systems, and then you've got a potential plot point in your story where the tunnel systems are failing, they are collapsing, and maybe that's somewhat due to something that's going on in the upper city. They're causing some sort of extra downpour in water, and that's causing like maybe the biggest flood they've seen yet. Maybe there's some reason that is something that's up there that's causing them to cause extra downpour, and that's why they need the parts to fix it. And so that's why they send people down to the surface to get those parts. But because they haven't gotten those parts yet, now they're causing this extra flooding, which is closing off their tunnel system, which they need the tunnel system to get those extra parts. And now you've got all this conflict where it's like where every problem is like amplifying these other problems people have. And if they can just get through this tunnel, they can get the parts. So they quickly have to go up to the city, fix the problem, and then take care of all the flooding going on below before people drown.
Yep.
Like you just got yourself a lot of conflict. You don't even have a villain here.
Yeah. You also have like add in communication barriers because it's been centuries. So like their language will probably be will be mostly similar, but there's gonna be a communication gap that just comes
I
with
imagine
time.
there would be a lot of terms and stuff that don't really
Match ever.
match.
Yeah.
Like maybe they've come up with, and I imagine like you, for the sake of the story and making things simple, you could have their languages be pretty much identical. And something fun that is a common trope, sort of cliche, is the people on the surface have come up with a name for the city dwellers.
Yeah.
They could call them something like flyers, maybe. I don't know. That's not very clear. It would have to be some sort of fun, weird name.
Yeah.
That would just confuse the heck out of anybody from the city. And they're like, "I'm sorry, what did you just call me? What did you just say?" And it's like, flyers. You know, people who fly around the sky.
I was thinking. I was.
Some sort of term, and they would maybe come up with different names. Flying.
I know. I was thinking more like that's fun stuff there. But I was thinking more things that would have a more significant effect, like things like they actually end up having the same word, which is something from the past, but that word has taken on two very different meanings. But they don't realize that. So, like, say the people from the upper, they need a specific part, and, like they call a gear, but the people below have started associating the gear with, say, like, a pipe or something. So when they come down and they say they need a gear, they're gonna be like, we have it, but it's this rare thing, and we can only get it from here. But then you actually get to that item, and they're like, no, we meant gear, like this thing, and they draw it out, and they're like, oh, you meant like a pipe.
Spur.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, yeah, something like that. I was thinking something that had a bit more consequence than just what they call each other.
Yeah, and I imagine they could call it like. I imagine like very often what you do is like maybe what happened was the people who were left behind, maybe they aren't as technologically knowledgeable, like they just don't know the terms.
They're the people who
right
failed
that,
an
and
exam.
most of the people who did know all these different parts and stuff are the people who are living in the city.
Yeah.
And so the less knowledgeable people got left behind, and so they came up with new names for everything. So it's like, these gears, we'll call them star wheels.
Or it could simply just be that they had a guess of what this item was, and they think it was this name, but they get terms confused. So
Oh
they will
yeah,
switch
like that.
terms.
That could easily happen.
And if a term is switched, that means they're still using the same words, but they're meaning different things. And so when you need a specific item and you're using a term and you think that that other person is thinking the same thing you are, but it turns out they're not, that's can be very problematic, especially if you're looking for a specific part to save the world.
I definitely want a name for with a name for that the surface people would call the city people. I
Isaac,
just
we're
feel like it would
not
be so
name
much fun.
makers, but we're not name
I
makers. We
know,
can't.
but I just feel like it would be so much fun if they came up with some sort of silly name for them.
That's the comment section's job. They're better at this than we are. If
We
they,
don't get many comments.
yeah, but I still feel like they could be better at it than we are. Prove us right. Leave a comment with name suggestions for what the Sky Dwellers can call the Land Dwellers and what the Land Dwellers can call the Sky Dwellers.
This video will get 12 views.
Yes, but we just need one person with creative names.
I mean, yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of this with this world. We've got a lot of story potential for this
Yeah,
one.
this is
There's all kinds of stories you can get from a world like this.
yeah, this one's definitely a story-heavy world, which is interesting because it seemed like it would be more like either an element or an element heavy, but this is a story heavy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it could be both. Like,
Yeah.
I see a lot of potential with this world.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's always fun having like two contrasting areas, and I find it interesting that this is the first time where we're like two opposite worlds, and they're going to get along when they reconnect, and they're not going to try to murder each other, but they're going to work together to fix an environmental problem instead. We never do that. We're always like, ooh, two conflicting worlds, fight!
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, oh, we got the birds of the day, the birds of the night, fight! They just stick them in a blender and crank the dial.
But if anything can bring the world, bring people together, it's your world falling apart literally, and you both needing to fix each other's help to fix it. So.
Yeah. And then you kind of like, there was that other world where it's like the one that takes place in that person's head. It's like, I'm taking on like basically shoulder angel and shoulder devil.
Yeah, the mirror.
Like, you two are now placed in the mind. You got this guy's destiny. Fight.
Yeah, we like making characters fight.
We do.
But not today. Today we have two separate worlds that got separated. I'm sure there's hostility, especially from the earth to the sky.
Yeah, it's like, look what you've done to us.
But at the same time, there are generations past, and I think the earth environment has gotten better since the sky people have left. So so I feel like there's a lot more
hostility.
Yeah, I think it's hostility they can get over pretty fast. It's definitely something that I think needs to be addressed, but at the same time I think it's not I don't think it's going to cause as much tension as you'd think it would, just because circumstances.
Yeah, because I mean, if there's that many generations apart, like they don't hold a grudge against each other. The people on the surface didn't even know that the people in the sky existed, and vice versa. Yeah. It was an honest mistake, like, oh, we didn't realize we were hurting so many people.
Yeah. I mean, their ancestors did, and that's usually where the tension comes. But, maybe this is the world where people realize that we need to stop blaming the grandchildren for their grandparents' mistakes, especially when they didn't even know their grandparents did it.
What if, like, from all these mutations, there was one person who did get a mutation that was very positive, where it actually caused them to live longer?
Oh, so like...
And so now you've got the person who is 300 years old, who was around when the city took off, and is maybe seen as like the crazy person, because everybody knows the city doesn't exist, but this person's like, no, I saw it, I was around for that. And then they come down, and this person's like, you ruined us!
Okay, Isaac, we were doing so well. We're not gonna... No fight, remember?
Okay, I mean, but it's an option in case somebody wants to write that story.
True. If you want them to fight, they can. But I think I think it's that is an element, and that is a tension-causing element, and it's a useful one to keep in the mind. But I don't think that should be the driving feature of the story. I think this is an environmental and a basic communication story. More so. conflict. But that's my personal opinion. If you want to take it, you take it whatever direction you
Yeah.
want. You guys are the
And again, you
writers.
don't really need an antagonist or a villain for the story. You can
No, the
have one,
world does. It's the
absolutely.
environment that
I
is.
on the surface, your antagonist would be the old, seemingly crazy person who's around the city's takeoff, and in the sky, it would be the guy with the big twirly mustache and the goggles and the
Monocle.
top hat and the
It's a
maniacal
monocle.
laugh. Probably a walking cane
Oh
and
yeah. That turns into a
um,
gun.
like yeah, the one key that turns into a gun. It's both a gun and a sword. It's gotta be both.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Uh,
No, agreed.
and what else would he have? Trench coat, gloves, black gloves. And he
Overalls,
dresses in like full black.
suspenders, or whatever
No,
it's called.
no, the person, his assistant wears overalls.
No, he's suspenders, like the things that connect.
What?
So, like,
Like,
you know how they
you got a very different style though. What I'm thinking.
what? Like, I'm thinking, it's like the classic where you like wear the white shirt with kind of slightly puffy sleeves, slightly, very barely, and then you have like the black, almost dress pants with the suspenders and the trench coat and the bow tie and the monocle and the curly beard, curly mustache, and the
Okay, you
cane
and
and
I
like the
have
boots and stuff.
two different villain envisionment. Like
Yeah,
I think they're like kind of similar, but like I was thinking of like
are you going
I
more
get what
mad
you're thinking of. I
scientist?
was thinking of something slightly different. I think that both could work. Of course, his hat also has to have ears on.
Well, yes, of course.
Useless
That I can agree
ears,
with.
like ears that do literally nothing.
Yeah, no, I can agree with. Occasionally feathers, but we're not sure of the animal situation in this world.
You can have birds living in the cities.
True.
Okay. So yeah, those are your two villains if you want them. But really, the world itself could act as an antagonistic force. I mean, again, that example that I gave earlier with the city needing part, floodwaters, destroying the tunnels that need to get in and get this item. You can have an antagonistic force that is not a role given to an individual.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like
because
it was,
remember, like the three, I think the three villain types, they're like person, self, and environment or Earth. In this case, this is an environment villain.
I'd say like natural
Yeah, that's it.
and
That's the
force
word.
is sort of like a better term for it.
Yep.
Yeah, like I mean, that was one of the big criticisms that both you, me, and a lot of other people have had with the new My Little Pony movie was that they didn't need a villain.
Yeah.
They already had their antagonistic force.
Yep.
Uh, Astro Boy did have a villain, funny enough.
I mean,
I
Mortal
had like
Engines has
that sort of
villains.
environmental message. What?
Mortal Engines also has a villain.
Yeah, like okay, so I guess from this we say everybody go watch Mortal Engines and go watch Astro Boy.
Yep. Sounds like good recommendations. Especially if you like this thing.
Yeah, there was a third
steampunk
one.
and stuff.
I don't remember what it was. Oh,
Oh,
Castle in the Sky.
Castle in the Sky was the other one. Yep. But I think that's a good place to end it. I'm happy with this world. Yeah, and I like lore in a world. Like I like it when we build the history of a world and the timeline of it. I think that's fun. So I liked doing that for this one.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that this is a super complicated timeline either. Like
No.
where it would take 20 pages just to explain everything that happened. It's like, no, here's how the city took off. Like you had like this group of people in the city. They wanted to leave the world, escape the looter. They took off. They left these people behind.
Yep.
They mutated. Like there you go. Like that's all you gotta really say.
Yep.
You can do that in a single page.
Yep.
Give all the history that people need.
Or you could do it like slowly over time if you want to, because those are fun too. Is where they're like slowly discovering it when they're communicating with each other. Lots.
Yeah.
Yep. But that is where we are going to be ending it. You can join us next week when we will be back again with a different prompt and another world to build. But we are this is us saying goodbye. So yeah, bye.
Hi, people.
You said that was so weirdly.
And I hadn't noticed.
I'm ending now.